Good evening, afternoon, morning. My name is Gibbesch, and we are here for a webinar talking about private universities in Germany. I am the founder of Gibbesch Consulting, a boutique relocation agency that is based in Germany, and we are helping people relocate, move, and also with immigration issues. And of course, we help students move here, and this is our topic for today. With me today is Adi Yehoshua. She's our student advisor at Gibbesch Consulting. Adi, if you would like to introduce yourself for a minute.
Hello, it's nice to be here this evening. I'm Adi Yehoshua. As it was said, I'm the student advisor in Gibbesch Consulting, and also dealing with student visas. And that is it for now.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about today. First and foremost, Germany is very known for its public universities. So we're going to talk about the differences between private and public universities. And afterwards, we're going to go through the English taught programs and high demand fields. Then we're going to talk about financial support and admissions process. And we're going to end with career opportunities and networking and Q&A, part of Q&A. If you have any questions, please make sure to write them in the chat and we can answer in the Q&A part. And we also had questions from people who asked us to talk about, to answer, even though because they're not going to be here and the webinar is recorded, so we answered them too. So let's take it. So as I said, Germany is very known for its public universities, mostly known also for quality, I agree, but mostly because it's cheap. Some people, I think most people would say it's free. No, it's not free. So you have to pay for public transportation, you have to pay for books, for other materials of work. But yes, the tuition itself is free. Mostly, it's about bachelor degrees and not master's degrees. There are master's degrees that cost money. For example, space engineering in Technische Universität in Berlin cost about 10,000 a year. And that's in public university, just master's degree in English. So it basically, if it's not the topic, obviously, that it's a little bit problematic to study in private university, it's more of public, it's very specific public university. So then take under account that if you're looking for master's degree, they usually cost money and not as free or cheap as the bachelor ones. Another thing that is really important to remember about the public universities, is that they're usually very big. Classes are huge. They have many students in class. Professors might not notice you unless you're extremely good. And even then, TAs maybe would notice you, maybe not. So it's really hard to stand out. In private universities, for example, in most private universities, classes are small. Attention is personal. And if you have a TA, sometimes you have TA, sometimes not. So then attention is given to the ones that are needed. And then, of course, there is the issue of the admin stuff that they're very, they can help individually for small amount of students and not when it comes with masses like the public. And I will end with the most significant difference between the public and the private. Public universities are German-speaking programs, which means that you have to have for most programs at least level of B2 German, and at least, and that you have to achieve before you apply to the university. In most public universities in Germany, there's an institute called UniAssist, and they're the buffer between the applicants and the public universities. And they decide if your level of German is good enough, if your documents are good enough, and if they don't think they're good enough, they wouldn't even transfer it to the university. So you have a buffer always between the university and the applicant. Not the same with the master's degree. Usually you can contact the university directly. But for bachelor degree, you always have this buffer, and you have to show the understanding and the proven level of German, which in private universities, most programs, not all of them, most programs are in English. And by that, I think that we can continue to our next topic, which is English taught programs and the high demand field. So, Adi, I refer to you and asking why people choose English taught programs.
So I think we can approach this question by saying that most of the applicants for English taught programs are basically international students, which take us to the first, maybe obvious reasons for being more of an English speaker than rather a German speaker. But this is not the only thing that makes them choose this thing, because we see also locals sometimes attending to those English programs, and sometimes it happens because of some availability issues with certain fields, immense barriers to some professions, and also we can see it in fields that are with international character. For example, social science, business management, or around international relations, and obviously computer science and high-tech related fields.
What kind of degrees would you characterize as high demand in the English taught programs from your
So,
experience?
so high demand, we can talk about like both sides of this table. So we have the high demand by the market and the high demand by the students. Most of the English programs are mostly focused, as I said, more in the social science field, business management, international relations, some subjects around psychology, general psychology, even healthcare, different types, mostly around management and computer science and engineering. When we're talking about the high demand fields from Germany, they are tending to say that they mostly want people around healthcare, transport, tourism, education, craftsperson, which is like dealing with metal and woods and stuff like that, and engineering, and especially software and IT. So we can see that there's some kind of overlap between those two. So if you want to make an achievable choice for you, the best shot for you can be around healthcare and computer science. Those will be high demand also from the work field and not just by students.
Okay, by social sciences, do you mean, for example, psychology?
Yes, by psychology, but I mean less around specifically psychotherapy, but mostly like in general psychology, cognitive psychology, around those things that you can more become a researcher from it, and less of psychotherapy, because psychotherapy is more heavily regulated by the states. So if you want to be a psychotherapist in Germany, you most likely have to learn German heavily and go through a very heavy training.
Yeah, I think that's the same as the healthcare section, unless it goes for healthcare management. And that is completely different because the systems, though they're Germans, they require the perspective of the international knowledge that can be provided by the international students. So this is something I think that healthcare, but of course there's business because there's a saying in Germany, if you don't find a job, just have another degree. So then you do your bachelor and then you do your master's, public universities, right? You do your bachelor, you do your master's, and then you do your PhD, or that you find a job as a consultant in some consulting firm. It can be McKinsey, it can be Boston Consulting Group, it can be, well, there are so many here, and they need the international perspective of business, international students. So this is very interesting to see how everything is connected. Because even if you study business or MBA in public university and you have all the Germany in the world, it doesn't necessarily provide the option or the security to get a job. So this is something that is extremely important to remember. Do you think that the potential students, should prioritize their field of interest with high demand fields, or to kind of a mixture? How do you suggest that people would actually consider what they're going to study?
I think it's a bit of a tricky question because it's kind of to say, what would you prefer, money or passion? So it's always somewhere in between, right? Because you want to try to get an achievable option, as much as achievable as you can, but also you want to make a wise choice because you'll be, in the end of the day, occupied mostly with what you choose. It could be the same for in the work field, and the same in the education. Uh, you'll go to the university and have submit papers and do all of this work, and if it's not something you really like to do, then it's not really worth it. But of course, it's not like everything is possible in the world, and you have also to look for it financially and in time-consuming matters.
Okay. And you mentioned financially, so let's talk how the tuition fees at private universities compare to those at the public universities that I already mentioned, the public tuition. So let's roll on the private. What's the range, let's say, that you're familiar with?
Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, public universities tend to charge less or no charge with for their programs. Although in some international, mainly international programs, they can charge even high tuition fees. And in private universities, it also can vary. I would say it's mainly between 4,000 and 600,000 euros per semester. Um, but it could happen that university can subsidize maybe part of the tuition fees, or if it's a specific program that they want to attract student to. So this is more of a specific case scenario. But if I need to put in an average, so this is that is the range I would give to it.
Okay, so is it possible to have a tuition by credit, for example? Like you start certain tuition, and then the next semesters, the tuition is calculated by the number of credits that you take, number of courses.
Well, it depends. So, if you take a full time course, then mostly they don't tend to change the tuition fees from semester to semester. But I know some programs that can reduce by the amount of courses. It really depends on the institution that you're involved in. Those things you can really figure out while you're searching a program.
Okay. What can we I talked about the public, what you can get in the public universities at the beginning. What can you say about the private universities? What do international students get for these high fees?
So, so for those high fees, as you said at the beginning, I think the first thing you can notice is being with less students in a classroom, and that means personalized service. And I think the most important, very socialized cohort, which can be with you also after studies. This is very important, and moreover, it's easier this way to create a community, an alumni community, especially when you need to look for a career after graduate. So, and also, I would say that I can see that private universities can take these tuition fees and invest it in some nice facilities, especially when it comes to artistic or performance-based programs. You can see studios and podcast recording rooms and producing studios, which can be very inviting.
Well, you talk about private university that we saw here in Berlin for their campus for the arts, I think, design and arts, and they have what was it, recording studio. So this is something that is very impressive because the public universities mostly don't have this resource to give because they are funded mostly by the state. And even though yes, the private universities sometimes there are network universities, and there are a few in this network, or sometimes they're European networks, part of European networks, sometimes part of American. So it's really important to notice what you get in return. And you talked about socialize after, and it's something that actually I want to, it's really interesting because in Germany, it's not the same as the US, for example. In the US, in colleges, it's the college spirit. It's wow, amazing, and everything is like around the college, dorms and everything. It's really, really, really not the same in Germany. Definitely not in public universities, even though they have dorms most of the time, but not always. In private universities, I think they're trying more to get this college spirit, university spirit. It's not as common as in the US, of course, or UK. It's mostly university, but they have this socialize after. They have shared projects, and the fact that they're coming from different countries actually provide different perspectives on projects, which is very interesting. And in addition, teachers are faculty are mainly internationals. So this is something that they bring faculty with known names, and this is something that is actually important for to note for the private universities, because private universities tend to bring more teachers, more professors with experience, practical experience, than theoretical experience, which I highly appreciate because, they are theoretical. Yes, you need to have this, curriculum, but it's also important to learn practical use that you can actually work with when you graduate. So this is something that is extremely important. Can you tell us what kind of scholarships or funding opportunities are available for international students?
So I would say it mostly depends on the new university, because it matters if this institute is German or not. But firstly, most of the universities have their kind of own scholarship programs. It's mostly you get some amount, half semester or a whole semester or even a year, and this is mostly in exchange for some volunteering or creating a project, mostly like kind of given back to the university. um, the second scholarship that is very common, this is for German institutions. would be the Deutschland Stipendium, which is mostly for, um, they would say, outstanding grades and achievements. Basically, you can approach it even before you start studying, as long as you have a German bank account, and if you present them a lot of achieves that you have, volunteering, any documentations from everything that you did in your home country could help. And this is half funded by the government and half by private donors or the university itself. And this is mostly, you don't have to work in addition. The other route that you can take would be external organizations such as religious institutes or some kind of activists, maybe a little more politically, and that depends if you are connected to their ideas. And also there, mostly you'll have to create a project in addition to compromise the money that you get. Um, and the other would be student loans, which there are a lot of options that can be funded by the government. But like with every loan, with every deal, such as a loan in general, don't go for something without consulting in beforehand, because that could be less. The payment could be very very high without paying attention. So just do things wisely and always talk beforehand. There is also, if you're a European citizen, or if you're coming from if you have an opportunity for as asylum seeker, or those things, you can also apply for BAFOG, which is also funded by the government, and they can have scholarships and student loans. But it's all only if you are under this definition of being a European citizen, or if you're an asylum seeker. Otherwise, it would be very hard to get this, and also you have to be in a socioeconomic right. Like you have to earn relatively less money than the others for that, and you have to prove it.
Is it a factor if a student works, for example, on a student visa or student residence permit? A student, never mind public or private, can work up to 20 hours a week. Does it matter for the scholarship, for example, if a student works?
So it depends on the scholarship. For example, Deutsche Stipendium, they don't really care about your economic background. And also, most of the scholarships that are provided by the university, they most care about your things that you can achieve around your achievements around along the years, and the grades that you provided. This is more that what of they want to the student to make. And I think if you want to apply a scholarship and to stand out, is I think you should put the efforts on to prove that this money would come back to the university or the society in some way, and less of the economical background of your parents or where you're coming from.
Okay. I think about scholarships, we were asked here if there's a scholarship for athletes, table tennis or other, in case of public universities, and in case of so public universities, we're not as expert in scholarships, but athlete scholarships in general in Germany are not that common. As I said, it's very different from the culture of in the US, and it's not that common. So you can check with the university that you want to go to, but in general, it's not very common. Private universities, as far as I know, They're studying. They started in the I think last few years tournaments of their own between private universities. So this actually started to get really interesting there. Yet I'm not so sure that athletes get scholarships. And then we get to the cost of living. So let's start with the most, if you don't mind, the health insurance. For And that doesn't go by public or private universities. It goes by public or private insurances that fit the student's status, which means, for example, we're not going to start here the explanation about public and private health insurances. It's, huge topic. But a student under 30, no matter private university or public university, is eligible for public health insurance. The problem starts from age of 30. And then you probably cannot be in public health insurance, and you have to have private. And then it means that pre-existing conditions take place. You can have something that is less. Work as a student doesn't give you, if it's a student position, working student, so it doesn't give you any eligibility for public health insurance. So unless mostly, part-time and up give you the eligibility for public health insurance. All the rest have to go to private health insurances, which can vary from 40 euros a month to there's like really no limit there. Depends on what you take. But other than health insurance, what do you think? What are more that you can count in the cost of living?
So you have to. I mean, I think that the biggest chunk of the cost of living would be rent, and of course, like we have to admit, like along the years, this thing is getting trickier. But there are some ways to deal with this thing. So that could vary. It depends on where you choose to live. If it's in a big city, it's a bit further from the city center, or if it's southern Germany, which tends to be more expensive, or it's northern Germany, which tend to be a little less. I would say that Berlin tends to be relatively cheap, not only compared to other cities in Germany, but also comparably to other European capitals. So rent could vary. If we'll take a one-room apartment, it could vary between 800 and 1200 per month.
Even more.
What?
Even more.
Even, yeah, more you can always get. Okay,
Yeah, that is true.
this is not difficult to achieve,
True.
but yeah, but this is kind of the average that we're going in, and this thing is keeping on changing. And we will add, according to the German Institute of Statistics, cost of living is around 992 euros per month. And also this can vary. If you go to, for example, to Munich, you expected to pay more, not a lot more, but you'll pay relatively higher amounts on groceries, on public transportation, etc. So, but I would say in Germany, when it comes to food, and when it comes to everyday expense, uh, that is relatively achievable. It's you can manage.
I think that we can say for certain that if you do takeouts every day, or go to a restaurant every day, so it would probably be more than the average cost of living. And actually, the amount that you said, the 992, is recognized for it's one of the demands for the student visa, which is in a blocked account that the student can take out every month. Currently 992 each month. And that actually is supposed to cover the cost of living, the basic cost of living. And I think that instead of maybe there's one room apartment, yes, but there is actually a room that can be rented, and prices go, it can be in, I don't know, Karlsruhe, it can be from 250, 300 and up, let's say. Or in Chemnitz, if you take, there's also, 150 and 200, but don't go to Chemnitz. But in general, there's like really variety. You just have to understand, because you have to understand the price. If you want to live in the middle of, if you want to live in Munich, there's a price for this. If you want to study in Munich and live affordable life, you go and you live in Augsburg, which is 45 minutes by train. And the same with other cities, other places. So you just make your own account. Let's continue to
I just want to add, like, there is a possibility. It depends on which university you go, but there is a possibility for student housing, and if that's possible, even if the wait list is for a long time, it's always good to even try, because that could also, this is most, those apartments and shared apartments are mostly lower than the free market value. So I would try, even if you'll find the place, you can always just drag out of the list in any time you want, because a lot of people are looking for housing. So this is a good advice.
Okay. Let's talk about the admissions process in the private universities, of course. What does the typical admissions process look like for international applicants in the private universities?
Okay, so the typical process would be mostly uploading and submitting an application in their whatever portal that they're doing so. And then after this, most likely you get an interview, most likely with the recruiter and also with the head of the program. And if everything goes well, you can create a contract with them and get an acceptance letter, which is an important. With this form, you can apply for a visa if you need. Um, Typically, the documents that you will need would be regarding your academic background, which can be the diploma, high school, graduation, or a bachelor degree, depends on where you're trying to apply. A motivation letter, should be not longer than a page of explaining why did you choose this program in this university and in Germany, and some identification documents.
Is an interview required? And what language is that?
Okay, so if it's an English program, it's most likely to be in English. And also, it's typical. The interview, it's most likely to be partly for technical reasons, but also kind of a get to know the student. So around preparation for the interview, I would say just be calm, be yourself, and maybe just get some information around the program and around what the reason why you chose this program and so forth, and if you're planning maybe to stay in Germany, because this is also most likely to be asked. But yeah, practice some English before, because it's always much smoother to do that.
Well, I think it's really important to say, you said be yourself. I actually say it, please, literally, be you. Because there are certain cultures that it is very common to hire someone to play you, and then definitely with an English interview, and then you get accepted, everything is fine, and then you arrive and they actually check your English in class, and you have to come with an interpreter because you don't understand the language, and then it can actually lead to, well, um, end of termination of your school in Germany. And that definitely, I don't know how the public universities deal with it, since we're talking about the private universities, but private universities don't take it lightly. They, I think the admissions team is really upset when they're trying to, when trying to cheat. And I think it goes the same for the exams. So maybe that's, we take it as the next question. How important are standardized tests like TOEFL, IELTS, or GMAT? And for that matter, we mentioned it's really important that you actually do it and not someone else hired for you. Yes, please.
Yes, indeed. So, yes, so most likely for private universities will ask you to go through some of these one of these tests. If English is not your mother tongue, regarded as second language. The difference between those tests is mainly the type of English that they're using. For example, TOEFL is using American English, IELTS is using British. So you better use something that you're kind of used to hear and talk and read. I would say most likely you can apply before you're doing those tests. Mostly, if you do so, then your acceptance would be conditional. But I would suggest that taking those tests is the sooner the better, because you are about not only to use English for this exam, but to use this language every day in your school, listen to it, write for it, and this is really important to practice the language way before you come to Germany. Um, yeah.
GMAT, for example, the MBA programs that you know in private universities, do they require GMAT?
It depends. It depends. So the some institute will. So every university has their own bars, I would say. So they some can accept specifically TOEFL IBT and from the grade 90, or IELTS from 7.0. So it really depends. They mostly say which exams are applicable, and also what is the minimal grade. I would say some programs that I saw even can consider some Duolingo grades for being as acceptable. But you really need to look for it in advance, and to see what is considered applicable and what's not.
Yeah, I think that, it's really important. The GMAT is, well, I know that a lot of people fear the TOEFL and IELTS, but if you have good English, you definitely don't have to be afraid of this. GMAT is a little bit intimidating, I would say. For psychology, for example, are there any tests? I know that in certain countries you have to do to get accepted to a MA in psychology, you have to do some kind of test. Is it the same here in private universities that give that provide MA in psychology?
So yeah, as we said earlier, around healthcare and professions that are heavily regulated. So when something is very heavily regulated, and it's a high demand by students, so you'll have to have a lot of barriers, and part of it is exams. But most of the private universities are going to certain types of psychology that are less likely to be very very with a very high bar. around to be accepted, because there is enough places for all the students. We all know that most of the bars that are happening in those fields, it's not because of professionalism, it's mostly because of the high demand, because there are not enough classrooms to just occupy everybody. And in these types of general psychology and more of the or the healthcare management field, so those things, they have place for everyone, and everyone that is interested in those fields can be accepted, and it depends on the bachelor that you did, and of course your background. That what matters.
Okay, I think that we still have more questions that we were given in advance. So let's go through, I think, the career opportunities, that networking that is really important. And private universities support students in finding, as we talked at the beginning, private universities tend to bring more faculty with more practical experience, which means they have more connections, which means it can lead to better and more interesting internships or student jobs. And after that, graduation, it really helps. Also, a lot of private universities, they do kind of like networking events for the students, field trips. Like I know in university, TUA University Berlin, that they are doing field trips for their business students to introduce them to consulting companies, banks, any other, really a lot of they're doing specifically field trips for their students in order to help them get, achieve their goal in employment. Of course, it's less relevant to students who don't want to stay in Germany afterwards, but for those who are interested in actually move to Germany and stay after they're leaving, so after they graduate, so that this is a very good opportunity to use. But I also say, since the faculty is international, it's also possible to find opportunities in the home country or countries that the professors worked at. And I think it's very interesting to see the opportunities that you can get and the different projects that you get. So it's something that is really, really important. And we were asked, Ashley, before, how open are German employers to hiring graduates from private university? And I think that relates to something that we said before, that Germans are used to, okay, we do the bachelor and then we do the master's, and at some point you become a consultant. So the international perspective that and practical experience and knowledge that international students from private universities bring with them to potential workplaces, they're immense. And I think that, it depends how you present yourself. In most public universities, in most private universities, it's very common to have public speaking classes and how to introduce yourself, and exactly to make all it's more of American approach to this more. And I'm very happy that they have that, because a lot of students, they come at the age of 18, 20, but also at an older age, but they still need this push of confidence, how to speak in front of public. So it's really, really important. And one last thing that we're going to say before we continue to Q&A. So if you have any questions, this is the time to write in the in the chat. So alumni is a key. So there are universities that take, business. For example, we take the business field as an example, and alumni bought bought, built, inherited companies and opened and they know the level of education in their own university. So they bring in more students, they help with connections. It's more the standard of, because in Germany, it's not very common, the alumni system, like in the US and the UK. So the private universities actually make this something that they are proud of, or working on it or building it. So it's really, really important to know. Let's go to one of the question here. Yeah. TOEFL exam is required to, yeah, I don't know what university that you're, I think that you're talking about private, but specific, we're not talking specific about specific universities, but in general, a lot of things, yes, it's public, so this webinar is about private. That might be, yeah, for another webinar. High school diploma, usually it has no validation, expiration date, if it's recognized. Okay, another question that we received at the beginning. What are the common mistakes that students do with the admission process?
So, I mean, there are the globally common mistakes around not paying attention to the requirements list or not paying attention to deadlines. But I think specifically with Germany, Germany loves its papers, and and we know that they would like to see things when it's on paper, original, and especially when it comes to the diplomas. And I know it sometimes could be very tiring to reach out to the institutes, and especially if it's a high school and you graduated so long time ago, but still they want to see original copy that has been issued from the university or high school that you attended to. So looking after these things in advance, that could make things a lot easier, because we are dealing here with post office and we're dealing with maybe notarized translation if those documents cannot be issued in English. So so this is a thing that I think that's the most time consuming around submitting an application.
And when do you recommend that people would apply for a degree in private university?
Private universities tend to be flexible with deadlines, but I would say this as soon as possible, because it's not only a matter of it's not the time frame that we are talking about is not only from submitting the application till we get an answer, because this is the shortest period of time. We have also beforehand, as I said, with the hard copies thing, there's a lot of arrangement around this, and something is missing, and that something is missing, and you don't have time to submit this maybe by post, and then you don't have time till the deadline is expired. So that's what I'm saying. If you have if you invested the thinking about coming and about arriving to a different country and to go and study in a different country, then everything that could be made soon, let it be made soon.
Okay, and what tips would you give students to stand out in their applications?
So it's kind of related to what I said earlier around the achievements, and I think if you want to really stand out, it's with Germany loves its papers and also its certificates. So if you have documented voluntary stuff that you did, or have references and some other people that can recommend you, that can always help. with submitting an application.
And actually, it's very, it's very unique to private universities because there is actually someone who's actually checking your documents in the university to be impressed from this. Because in the public route, you have UniAssist that kind of blocks your way, and they, I would say, don't really care. So this is something that is really important. I think the last question that we have from before is, what advice would you give students who hope to stay in Germany long term after graduation?
Okay, I think the most obvious one would be learn German. And you will hear it from everywhere, but this is very true. If you're coming here and studying in an English program, especially if you're coming to Berlin, which is very English flexible, that could be very convenient to neglect German. But if you're expecting to be blended here and to integrate into the workforce and work field, German would open all the doors for you, and yeah, it's something that you realize only when you are going out from your home country and you realize how much advantage you had in your home country by having your language as a mother tongue. So that is the thing, the main advice. As soon as you can, I know that studying could be very fulfilling every part of your day, but still, if you can make some progress, even just a bit of Duolingo or Babbel or whatever application you like to use, even for just vocabulary, trying to communicate with every person, trying to ask for coffee in German. They might switch to English and it might frustrate you, but it's fine. Along over the time, it would
Yeah.
be better.
And also,
And
many private universities offer German classes for their students.
exactly. Or offering their own German classes, and sometimes they're offering discounts in some other facilities. So don't be shy and ask for these things. And also, if talking about asking and consulting, use, of course, your colleagues and professors. Be friends with everybody you can, and don't be afraid to consult with career service. Most of the universities have someone or someone's or an office that is dealing with career and about the next step. So they made the research for you and they know what is happening in the local work field. Consult with them, ask the questions, and if they don't know, just pressure them to know because this is their job.
Okay. I think that we have one question in the chat, and one question that I wanted to actually um, bring up before we finish here is that are the degrees German of private universities? They're German recognized or accredited, or other. If you can give us a few examples of what accredited degrees variety.
So it could vary. Some institutes, for example, SRA, SRH, they are German accredited. They are initiated as German university. So they're considered to be German. Most of the degrees. Some of their programs can be cooperated with a London institute from London or institute from the United States. So every program you can look for the accreditation and you will get details about that. There are some universities that they are from the first place. They are accredited by a different country. Touro, for example, is an American institute. So their accreditation is made by the American authorities. They're applying, they are under the American law when it comes to the education itself. They're still recognized as university in Germany, but your degree from TUO will be also, it will be American, basically.
Yeah.
And there are some also places that they are kind of more mixed, from Italy and the USA and Spain. That could also happen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Now, let's say in 2 words, basically, what one tip would you give for someone for a successful motivation letter?
Successful motivation letter. Okay. I think I know it's the easiest to go for AI generated motivation letter, but I think it's at this point they saw enough of it. So if you're using AI tools, just make sure that the content is yours. It's okay to use it for structure and for if you're kind of blocked, so it could help, but be aware that those language models are too common, and they are very much recognizable at this moment. Be honest as you can. Mainly focus your motivation letter on why do you choose the field that you're choosing, like as a profession. Why do you choose Germany, and why do you choose this specific institute? What stood out for you? Kind of show that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And summarize, construct to one page, not more than that.
Yeah. And I think that is very important to say, follow the instructions. Don't, follow exactly what they want you to say. And if, because there are some that would appreciate out of the box, but you can make out of the box inside the instruction field. So that would be much better. So we would have to close right now. So all the private universities, we offer Adi's assistant with advising about private universities, also that we work with, and we assist with for free with the application process for specific universities that we're in touch with, and we would happy to assist. So thank you very much again. Thank you, Adi, for coming and talking to us on a Sunday. So highly appreciate it. And thank you all for staying here. And I hope to see you soon. And August is International Schools webinar. So see you then. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.